Hey.
I'm Caleb.
Hey.
I'm Kristian. And today we're going to be battling it out on the basketball court. Well, with some basketball trivia, that is.
And learning what it means to be a royal priest.
Today on Mishmash!
It's time to die in the
Basketball is a sport where there are 5 people per team, and there's 2 teams, and the goal is to score baskets in order to get the most points so that you beat the other team. There's offense, and there's defense, and a ball that you use, and...
Caleb, I'm pretty sure they know what basketball is.
Oh, okay. Fine, but we might not know some of these intense basketball trivia questions that we're about to hear today, so ha!
That's correct, because we are playing Dizzy Dash Trivia, and this trivia is all about basketball, the sport that Caleb was trying to describe earlier.
But our version, the Dizzy Dash version, we can only answer the question when we spin around 3 times and then make a basket in that hoop. Most of the right answers will win.
Yeah, my accuracy is 80% accurate 50% of the time.
That doesn't make any sense, but we'll see about that. Kristian, let's play ball.
And reading our trivia today is our friend, Gavin!
Hello, team.
Hey,
Bye.
coach.
All right, your first basketball trivia question.
All right.
How many players are on a basketball court at one time?
Ten.
Ow. 10 is correct.
Ah!
Next question. What NBA team did Kobe Bryant play for?
Same the Celtics. No.
Lakers.
Correct.
Oh! Got it? Kristian, I just guessed.
Number 8, number 24, the legend, the GOAT.
You know, that was all the numbers he wore?
Well, yeah, I mean, those ones are the ones that are retired.
If you were to add up all those numbers, what would the answer be?
31.
Next trivia question.
Okay.
How many points is a free throw worth?
The question was, how many points is a free throw? It's 2.
Wrong.
Ah, I knew that!
Do I get a chance to answer now? Uno, 1.
Yes,
Yes.
1 point.
Okay, I knew that, but there just was so much blood rushing to my head I couldn't think straight, so...
All right, next question. If a player dunks a ball, how many points is that worth?
Did that go in? It's 2 points.
Correct.
I just felt like it was appropriate given the question to dunk, so 2 points.
All right, next question. What penalty is it called if a player doesn't bounce the ball but walks or runs down the court with the ball?
What is the term? You're not dribbling. Stop. You're carrying the ball. It's not called that though.
3, 2, 1.
Excuse me, Mr. Gavin, that would be called traveling.
Ah, that's
Correct.
the word. So you carry the ball and travel across the court.
All right, next question. What is it called when they throw the ball up in the air in between 2 players to start the game?
I swished that. Oh, goodness. I know that these things exist in the game, but the term Is it the toss-up?
No.
Like my answer to that question.
So listen. It's when
Tell me.
two players are standing off to get the ball
Next to each other.
next to each other.
What's it called though? Toss-up, apparently.
Incorrect for both of you. It is jump ball. If I take a shot from half court, how many points is that worth?
Three points.
Correct.
See, I know my stuff. I know basketball.
No, you don't.
It's like my favorite sport.
That's the only question he's gotten like actually correct.
All right, it is tied 3-3. So, last question. How many quarters are there in a typical basketball game?
Whoa. Swish! There are 4 quarters in a basketball game.
Correct. Bonus question. What about college basketball?
I would assume, given that it's basketball, there are still 4 quarters.
Nope. There are 2 halves in college basketball.
But if we break down the science, 4 make up 2 halves. So it really just depends on how you want to slice it. Literally, if you were to slice a cake in half, and then half to half, then we're right 50% of the time, 80% of the time.
All right, Caleb wins.
Woo! Yes!
Hey, listen, I would just like to apologize for all the basketball fans out there.
Take us to the verse. Come on. Take it.
Let's check out our verse of the week.
It was 3rd grade, and it was my favorite part of the day, recess. I love recess. I love recess because you can go and play on the playground. You can go play basketball, foursquare, tetherball. Okay, I never played tetherball. I didn't really understand the point. Like, you just hit the ball and it goes around the pole and then you do it again. It wasn't my thing. But on this particular day, me and my friends were feeling extra driven, you could say. And we decided we're gonna play a game of kickball. Yes, we decided we're gonna play a game of kickball. So we gathered tons of people together who wanted to play with us, and we decided, okay, we got the people, now we gotta make teams. And so we put everyone on a line, lined up, and when we got on the line, we decided on 2 different captains. There were 2 captains who stood in front of everyone to choose people for their teams. Well, I was not one of those captains. So that meant I was lined up with everyone else waiting to be chosen for a team. Have you ever been in this position before where you had to be chosen? Maybe you were like me and it was for a game of kickball or dodgeball and you had to be chosen for a team. Or maybe it was at school, in class. You were doing a group project or you were in partners and someone had to choose you to be their partner or you had to choose them. These moments of being chosen can be really fun and really intimidating sometimes. In the Bible, we see that people are chosen, and they're not chosen by just anyone, they're chosen by God. We're gonna read today out of the book of Hebrews, chapter 11 and verse 24, about someone who was chosen by God, and his name is Moses. Let's read together. Hebrews 11, 24 through 26. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as of greater value than the treasures of Egypt because he was looking ahead to his reward. Moses was chosen by God. And here's the thing about Moses. He was the son, technically, we could say, of Pharaoh's daughter. And so because of that, he had everything he could want. He had luxury, comfortability, and he decided, no, my belief in God is so much more powerful than all of that. And so I'm gonna let that be the thing that rules my decisions and rules my life. And he did. He represented God because he understood he was chosen by God to represent him to the world. Now, when we go back to being chosen for kickball, back to my story, I was not the first person chosen. Shocker. I'm not the tallest. I'm not the most muscular third grader at the time, or muscular person now even. And I was not chosen. I was maybe chosen second to last, which that's okay. It is what it is. And I decided, you know what? When it's time for me to go up there and kick that kickball, I'm gonna show them I should have been chosen first. And so we went, and I was up there at the plate, ready to kick. And as I go to kick the ball, I hit it so hard into the air. It's going out and out. And I just start running like I'm running to the base. And as I'm running so fast to the base, I trip. I tripped so hard on this pile of rocks. Guys, my knees are just bleeding, blood all the way down to my foot. And today I still have a scar there to show that. Kickball was not my thing. But thankfully, I was not chosen to be a kickball player. That is not my sole purpose in life. I am chosen by God to represent Him to the world, just like Moses and just like you. Each of us here are chosen by God to represent Him. And so, right now, let's go ahead and take a look at that verse again. Let's read it together once more.
we're talking about how followers of Jesus are actually royal priests that represent God to the world and the world to God. Now, to help us understand this whole royal priest concept better and how it applies to the whole story of the Bible, let's watch a video from our friends at the Bible Project.
The story of the Bible begins in a garden temple with a couple, Adam and Eve, as God's royal priests.
They're supposed to partner with God to take care of creation, and this place where heaven and earth are one is filled with God's blessing.
But Adam and Eve were led astray by a deceptive creature and exiled from God's presence. Their vocation as priests is lost. And with that, all humanity descends into violence. But God promises that a new royal priest will come to lead them back into the blessing of Eden by sacrificing himself.
So later on, we meet a new couple, Abraham and Sarah. God promises that through their family, the royal priest will come to restore the Eden blessing, not just for them, but for all the nations. And so it's this family that grows to become the Israelites. And they eventually journey to Egypt and then become enslaved under the violent rule of King Pharaoh.
So God appoints a man named Moses to represent him to Pharaoh and to mediate on Israel's behalf.
Moses confronts Pharaoh and then leads Israel out of slavery and into the wilderness, where they eventually come to Mount Sinai. And here, God appears to all the Israelites, inviting them to become a kingdom of priests.
So he's inviting everyone to be priests, like Adam and Eve were priests in Eden.
Right. But it turns out the people are afraid of God, and they don't want to come close to God's presence, and so Moses goes alone up to the top of the mountain.
And up there, Moses famously gets the 10 Commandments, the first two being, worship Yahweh alone and don't make idol statues.
And Moses sees some really amazing things up there. First, he sees God's heavenly temple, and then also a blueprint of it called the pattern.
All right, the plans for the construction of the tabernacle.
Yeah, it's designed as a symbolic model of Eden, a place where heaven and earth are one. Then Moses sees something else, the pattern of a glorious human figure.
The high priest who will work in the tabernacle.
Right, and only this priest can go in and out of the sacred space on behalf of others. He's dressed in white, he wears a crown and is glowing with jewels. He's an image of the royal priest that we're waiting for.
And yet, the man who's called to be Israel's first high priest is the brother of Moses, a man named Aaron.
And while Moses is up seeing all of this, down at the foot of the mountain, Aaron is misleading the people by making an idol statue of God.
So the soon-to-be high priest is breaking the first of the 10 Commandments.
Yes. And so God gets angry, and he tells Moses that he's done with these people. He'll just start over with Moses. But Moses stands before God, and he intercedes for the Israelites. He even offers his own life as a sacrifice for their sins.
And while God doesn't take Moses' life, he does forgive the people like Moses asked.
And so when Moses comes down from the mountain, he's shining, just like the high priest that he saw in his vision. It's like he's the real priest that his brother was supposed to be, but failed.
And from here, the tabernacle is built.
And then Aaron's family is installed to the priesthood.
But really, even after this bad start?
Yeah, and actually things get even worse. God gives Aaron and his sons really precise instructions on how to act as the priests. And then on their first day on the job, Aaron's two sons violate God's commands. And because they're in a place of great privilege and responsibility, God deals severely.
They die inside the tabernacle. Things are not looking good for the priesthood of Aaron.
Right, both Aaron and his sons have failed in their priestly role, and this begins to make us think maybe God's people need a different kind of priesthood.
Maybe one that's more like Moses, who surrendered his very life over to God.
Yes, and while Moses is great, he also fails to be fully obedient to God. And so both he and Aaron die outside the land promised to Abraham.
So Moses was only an image of the kind of priest that God's people will need.
Right, we're still waiting for this ultimate royal priest who will intercede like Moses and offer his life for the failures of others.
The Israelites eventually make it into the promised land, and there they appoint a king and establish a kingdom. Perhaps now God's royal priest can arrive.
And this brings us to King David, and his story is what we're going to look at next.
Wow, so King David is next week. Should be fun. Now, even if you didn't understand all that good info from our friends at the Bible Project, understand this. If you follow Jesus, you have a powerful identity as God's kid. Because you are God's kid, you are royalty for real life. And with great royal power comes great royal responsibility. You're also a priest for our God. That means God has chosen you to represent Him to the people around you. So first, recognize how much God loves you and has chosen you. Second, recognize how much God loves other people too. And third, be the royal priest our God designed you to be and share His love to others. Tell others about Jesus, the royal high priest, and keep representing God's love and truth to others. Remember, if you follow Jesus, you are chosen.
Mismatch.